Sairam and welcome to the next session in computational linear algebra. We are going to continue our discussion on LU factorization. Let us begin this session with a prayer. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So remember, in the last session we discussed taking A as the coefficient matrix of a linear system of equations in n variables with n equations. A is a square matrix, say n by n, and we took that and we factorized it and came up with what is called as A is equal to LU. And what did we identify with respect to L and U? There are special features. L is lower triangular, U is upper triangular. Apart from that, we also found that U had the pivots in its diagonal, while with respect to L had the multipliers in the lower triangle area. So these were a few of the features that we had seen with respect to L and U. Now in this session, what we are going to do now is to look at what is the speciality or the use of this factoring or factorization of LU for the coefficient matrix A. That is one aspect we will discuss. The other aspect we will discuss is, does LU factorization always work, or are there scenarios where we need to take a little more care? Okay, so let's begin and see what is the use of LU factorization. Okay, now that we have understood that A is equal to LU, since I know AX is equal to B, I am substituting for A as LU here, right? That gives us LU times X is equal to B. So if I pre-multiply this with an L inverse, so obviously the assumption is that L inverse exists. On that assumption, let's pre-multiply both sides with L inverse. That gives us that Ux is equal to L inverse B, which we call it as C, right? So L inverse B, I am calling it as C. Okay. If B is a column vector, some matrix times that vector will also give me another vector, right? So this C is a column vector and not a matrix. Okay. Since we are assuming L inverse B equal to C, just by doing a pre-multiply of L on both sides, what we get is LC is equal to B. Now here is the idea of how to solve AX equal to B using now the LU, right? So how we are going to look at it is, we are going to look at these two as two different sets of linear systems of equations. Using them, we are going to solve this single system of AX equal to B. Right, so let me go ahead and then show you how we can do this. So here is the idea. We are going to approach the solution in two steps. The moment we are given the linear system of equations, we bring up the coefficient matrix and factor it into L and U. We know the method. Then, as we have discussed here, we are first going to solve LC equal to B and UX equal to C. From LC equal to B, we are going to find the C, and we will use the C here and find the X. Simple. Remember, we discussed that C is again a vector, right? So using this, this is also like AX equal to B, right? So use this to find C, and then use this C as the right hand side here and find the X, right? So let us take an example and then try and demonstrate the use of LU factorization. Okay, so here is an example. So here is my coefficient matrix. So we can see from this equation, from the sets of equation, how we have brought this up. Now the U and L are the same from the last session, because it's the same example that I have got from the last session. So I am not explaining how we got the L and U, but we have the L and U, let us say, right? So let us try and solve this using our recently found method of LC equal to B and UX equal to C. Okay, so let's assume that C is C1, C2, C3. We know our X is X, Y, Z. B is at our right hand side is 5 minus 2 and 9. right? So let's look at LC equal to B, right? So see how it looks like when we start looking at the equations. When we start looking at the equations, since this is a lower triangular matrix, what happens is we get direct solutions for the first equation. So this becomes C1 equal to 5. Then you will have 2C1 plus C2 equal to minus 2, etc. So these are the three equations that come up. And how do we solve them? Instead of saying back substitution, let us call it as forward substitution. Why? Because first I have C1, I use this in the second equation, find C2. After finding C2, I use the C1 and C2 in the third equation and then find C3, right? So we are calling this as forward substitution. Once I have C1, C2, C3, all that's left is I have to solve the second set of equation, which is Ux equal to C, right? So let us look at that part. So here it is with Ux equal to C. What would happen with this? This is upper triangular matrix, and therefore again you are going to get equations of this form where we are able to see the solution for the last equation straight, right? And we can use our well-known back substitution and we can figure out the answers, right? We may actually ask what's the big deal of LU factorization? We could have done this with elimination as well. That could be a question. The second question, second approach to also ask is, now is this kind of a magic that's happening? Because it appears that Ax equal to B had a large amount of computation, whereas it appears here that we are not having too much computation, right? So let's try and look at these questions also. Now let us say that we count division as one operation, any multiply and add together is one operation, or multiply and subtract together as one operation. So let's see in forward substitution how many operations are we using. For C1 equal to 1, from the first equation, it is a direct solution, there is no operation required, so there is 0 operations. Whereas if we consider 2C1 plus C2 equal to minus 2, I have to substitute this here, so I have a multiplication here, and I will have a subtraction or an addition, whatever will happen. After that, a division, but the multiplication and subtraction together, I am going to assume that as one operation. And for C2, I need a division. Imagine if there is a coefficient here, I would have needed a division with that coefficient from the right hand side, right? But in this case, it's not there. But worst case, let's assume that there's going to be one division operation. Let's move to the third equation. Here, what would happen is I will need two multiplications, assuming some coefficients are there for C1 and C2. Of course, there will be some addition subtraction here, this side as well. All that together, let me take it as two operations put together. I will still have one division. In this case, again, it's not there, but in a general case, I may have a division, right? So what we are understanding is that when I have two variables here, I'm having two operations, and I'm having three variables here, I'm having three operations, and therefore for n variables, we can generalize this to say that if I, for n variables, when I say, C1, after that C1, C2, then C1, C2, C3, then C1, C2, C3, C4, up to so on like that for n equations. Therefore, for n variables, I will have all those equations, and when we add this up, see what we get, right? So 2 plus 3 plus so on up to, let's say, n minus 1. So that is going to be order of n square, right? So the order of n square compute is what we are getting with respect to forward substitution. Now it's very similar with respect to back substitution. We will also get order of n square. So obviously the total amount of computation we need is order of n square, right? But remember that when we did elimination, we discussed and said that the computation required there is order of n cube, right? So is this kind of a magic that has happened? No. The answer is no, because remember that we are factoring a into LU and we have not got that computation here. So when we look at a equal to LU, it's almost the same procedure as elimination, which would take order of n cube. And for back and forward substitution, we have order of n square. So overall is going to be order of n cube plus order of n square, which is again going to be order of n cube, right? So there is no change in the computation when we look at the overall system. Okay, then the next question is, then what's the big deal about LU factorization? Why should I go for LU factorization, right? So here is the example that tells us the power of LU factorization. That is this this one statement helps us understand this, that we can discard this coefficient matrix after we factor it into L and U, right? What does that mean? Suppose I have the same set of equations as above. So I have my coefficient matrix A. Let's say we factored it to L and U. Okay. After I factor into L and U, I am going to throw off the A. I don't need it anymore. With the same set of equations, if I have another right hand side, please think now how much time will we need in order to compute the solution, right? I hope that this part is quite clear. Assuming that from A we have obtained L and U and given a new right hand side for the same system, we can now calculate the solution probably faster than elimination. In elimination, if the right hand side changes, we are looking at it as if it's a new set of linear system of equations. Whereas looking at LU, once we have the factors L and U, if I have a new right hand side, I don't need to do elimination again. I use L and U to compute using forward substitution and back substitution. And here is one example. I have picked up another right hand side saying minus 2, 1 and 3. I have done this compute here. You can please verify with forward substitution and then back substitution, and we have the solution. What's the order of this compute, right? The order of this compute is only order of n square, right? Yes, it's not magic, but it's a smart way of computing, right? And that is the biggest advantage of LU factorization. There is one small glitch with LU factorization. L and U do not look symmetric, right? What do we mean by that? If you see the L matrix here, so let me show you the L matrix here. Look at the diagonal has got all ones. But if you look at the U matrix, yeah, it's upper triangular matrix, but its diagonals are not ones. If you want to make them look a little symmetric, right, we could also do that, and here is one small part which can help us do this, right? So here is an example. The same example as above, let's have L and U. Let's look at this U matrix and try to see if we can make these as ones on the diagonals. How do we do that? Like, I could divide this by 2, divide the first row by 2, divide the second row by minus 8, divide the third row by 1. Actually, there is nothing required for the third row. But the idea should be clear now that we are trying to make the diagonal elements into 1, right? So here are the operations that I have written. Okay. Now, since these are row operations, in order to bring back this U from this matrix, whatever we want to call this matrix, if you want, let us call it as say U dash. So look at U dash now. U dash has got all ones on the diagonal, great. So it is kind of looking very symmetric and nice with L, great. But that's not, that's not the complete solution for me. I have toned down the U into this. So I need some other factor which can bring me the original U back from this U dash. What can bring me that is by doing the reverse of these operations, right? Since we here divided by 2, I have to multiply the row 1 by 2, multiply second row by minus 8 and multiply third row by 1. And since these are simple row operations, we can use a matrix for it, right? And since we understand the row view of multiplication, here is the solution. So we can look at the original U which we wrote down here on top as this matrix, which is our U dash, times a diagonal matrix, right? Look at this, there are zeros everywhere except for the diagonal elements here, right? And therefore, instead of saying A is equal to LU, we can also factor it and say that it is LDU dash. There are places, I have called it U dash to indicate that here is this kind of a U upper triangular matrix which has got ones in its diagonal. That's why I am indicating it as U dash. But if you see the textbook, they don't distinguish that way. They may just say LDU, but I am hoping that the understanding must be clear from here. One interesting point is that you see that it's got 2 minus 8 and 1, and 2 minus 8, 1 are the pivots, and here is the entire matrix. So we have L, we have D and U. L has got ones on the diagonals, D has got ones on the diagonals, and rest of the things are true. I guess there is a mistake here in the L when I have copied. I'm sorry for that. So let me just remove this. And 1, right? Okay. So we move to our next question, which we initially discussed. Does LU factorization always work, right? So let me pick up an example and then see what happens. So here is my example. We have this system of equations. I have this coefficient matrix. Let's try and factorize it to LU. How do we factorize? First, we start doing elimination on the coefficient matrix. So let's begin. I have my original A coefficient matrix. I would like to eliminate the second row first column here. This must go. So what's the multiplier? Multiplier is going to be 1 by 1, and therefore I do R2 minus 1 time R1. Okay. So when I do the subtraction, I get this result. Okay. The next one to go is going to be the 3 1 element. So let me try and find the multiplier for it. This is going to be again 1 by 1. Therefore R3 minus R1, and I get this element. Right. I get this row in the R3. Now we observe something very important. The next one to go must be this guy, where we'll have to eliminate the 3 2, but unfortunately you see that this element has turned out to be 0, which means that we have got a 0 in the pivot position. What do we do, right? The solution can come by looking at this element being non-zero, which means that we could swap rows 3 and 2 and bring up this element on the top, right? So that let us try what happens, right? So let us swap R2 and R3 and bring up this matrix. Now we have got 1 1 1, 0 minus 2 0 goes up, and 0 0 minus 2 comes down, and this is great, right? So since this element was 0 here and got swapped here, this is already 0. We have already got our upper triangular matrix. There is nothing more to be done in elimination. Fantastic. Now from this entire procedure, we can easily bring up our L. How do I bring up the L? There is one fact that I am using, and that fact is that the multipliers are forming the lower triangle of my L. Okay. So first, how I fill up is I fill the ones and the zeros here. There are 3 elements here. These 3 elements I am going to pick it up from the multipliers that we have here. What's the first multiplier for this element? 2 1. For 2 1, the multiplier is a 1, right? Remember, this is a 1 here multiplying with R1. So that 1 I place it here. Okay. In the next, for 3 1, the multiplier was again 1 here, and therefore that I place it here. Okay. After that, we did not have any operation to eliminate the 3 2 because it became 0, and therefore I put a 0 here, right? Now what we'll do is we'll multiply L and U and see what happens, right? You see this, when we multiply L and U, we get this coefficient matrix which is not equal to A, right? Which means that LU factorization has failed us here, right? But there is a beautiful observation. The observation is that look at A. A is 1 1 1 1 1 minus 1 and 1 minus 1 1. Here you see that these 2 rows, if we could have swapped them, I think we would have got our A back, right? Okay, so what do we do? So what we observe is it's not, LU is not equal to A, but it is equal to A with the rows 2 and 3 swapped, right? And that brings us to another topic called as permuting the rows of a matrix. Basically, for row exchanges, we are going to look at them as permutations, right? So let me take an example. So let's say that I have here a matrix. Let's say we want to swap rows 1 and 3, right? We want to swap rows 1 and 3. So here is the result we are looking at. 1 2 3 must go to the row 3, 7 8 9 must come to row 1. 4 5 6 should not change. It must stay in the same row, that is second row. Now we can use this operation here. It's a row operation, but remember that row operations can be also viewed as pre-multiplying by another matrix. This is what we did for all other row operations, and we call them as elementary row operations. We used what are called as elementary matrices. Now here also we could do the same. How do we swap rows 1 and 3 using a matrix multiplication here? So let's use our idea of row view of multiplication. What is the idea? The linear combination scalars are going to come from this row, each of the rows here, and they would multiply the row vectors of this matrix, and that's the result, right? Since we want row 3 to come here and no other combination is going to come up, no impact, no effect from row 1 or row 2, we could straight away say, let me put 0 0 and make a 1 here, right? So 0 times this plus 1 times it, we get this. No change in row 2, so this means that this is going to be 0 1 0. And the last row, we want the first row here, which means that this must be coming, therefore this should become 1 0 0, right? So here is an example of a permutation matrix, right? There are some beautiful properties of permutation matrices. Let me list a few. Any permutation matrix has got same rows as the identity matrix of any order, right? You find that 3 by 3 we are finding 1 0 0 or 0 1 0 0 0 1. Another beautiful property is pick up any two permutation matrices, take the product. You will find that the product is also a permutation matrix. Okay. The third property is that the inverse of a permutation matrix is same as its transpose. Fantastic. But then we have officially not studied inverse or transposes, and I'm not going to discuss them in this session, but maybe once we discuss these two, we could look at this as well. So let me proceed to show you something more beautiful. So we are going to look at this specific second property here, but in order to do that, we could also look at another beautiful property of finding what are the number of permutation matrices that we have got for any order. Simplest, let us start with 2 by 2. When we say by 2 by 2, I is one permutation matrix, obviously, which does not have effect on any matrix. So it means that it doesn't swap any rows, it's identity operation. But I could have another permutation matrix here where I can swap these two guys and say 0 1 and 1 0. I call this as swapped 1 and 2, and that's why I have named it as P12. That is one more, right? So for 2 by 2, I just have two of them here. Okay. What about 3 by 3? Right? So 3 by 3, we can look at, let's swap first and second rows. So look at this here. First row goes here, second row comes here. I'll leave the third row as it is. Then I can have P13. P13 is have third row and the first row getting swapped. Second row stays same. Okay. Then I could do P23. You can understand how to write the P23 matrix. Question is, are there more to this? Right? It seems to me that the combinations are done because I have 1 2 3. I can do 1 2. I can do 1 3. I can do 2 3. So remember that doing 2 1 or 3 1 is same as 1 2 or 1 3, because what do we mean by saying swapping rows 1 and 3 or 3 and 1? It's going to be the same. Okay, but here is a beautiful and interesting fact. Try and see if we can multiply these two matrices, right? So let's multiply P12 and P13. What would happen? Try multiplying this, and here is the result that we have got, right? So look at the result. It says that the first row is going to go to the second row. The third row is going to come up in the second position, and the third row is going to become the first. That's what this permutation means. Now, how do I even indicate this, right? So I don't know what kind of way to put it, but what is interesting here is that I have a matrix which is indicated by the product P12 and P13. Now, is this same as P13, P12? Let's check, right? So try multiplying, saying P13, P12, and see what happens, right? So this is going to be 0 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 0, not same as this matrix that we got here, right? So let me take you through example of these two products and see what happens. So if in the original matrix I have 1 2 3, if I first apply 1 3, what would happen? I would exchange 3 and 1, right? So 3 and 1 go here, 2 remains the same. After that I apply P12, right? Look at the way this product is acting on a coefficient matrix. First P13 would act, after that P12 would act, and you see now P12, right? So that means that these two should get swapped, and that's why this becomes 2 3 1. Say let us say similarly with 1 2 3, let's try and operate with the other product here. First P12 would operate, so 1 and 2 get swapped, 2 and 3, and then P13, right? So that means 2 and 3 will get swapped. Now this becomes 3 1 2, right? Now we are able to see that there are so many different permutations that can come, right? And what does this indicate to us, right? So how do I figure out for 4 by 4, right? Is it really possible that we can go for 4 by 4 and keep calculating? So the way to argue this is going to be that if I fix my first row, what are the different combinations that can come, or different permutes that can come? The first row can go to any of the resulting products n positions, which means first row can go to first row or second row or to the nth row, and that means that very first row can go to n positions. Let's talk about the second row. Second row cannot go to any of the n positions, it can go to only n minus 1 positions because the first row has got fixed in one of the resulting products, one of the rows. Therefore, the second row can go only n minus 1. What about third row? It can go only to n minus 2 positions and so on. So, what does this give us? The number of permutations is going to be, right, this is going to be n factorial. So, now guess how many we are going to have here for 3. We are having 6 such matrices of permutation matrices for 3 by 3, and this formula helps us now 4 by 4, that's got to be 24 and so on, right? Okay, remember that we were discussing about when LU factorization is not working, and we came to this topic of permutation matrices. So here is a beautiful question. Let us say that after we have done our elimination, either after or before doesn't matter, but if we land up with the coefficient matrix at some point after row operations, let's say in this format, right, what are the different possibilities? So let us ask. Now we see in the first pivot position that's a 0. Okay, so what is the chance of trying to get a solution or trying to go for LU? The only chance is that we can swap rows 3 and row 1. If we swap, then there is a possibility. But if D happens to be 0, then there is no solution. Is it not? Right? So this is what we're going to write. If D is not equal to 0, then row 1 and row 3 we can swap, which means that we can use a permute matrix P13. But if D happens to be 0, what does that mean? There is no first pivot, and since the number of pivots is not equal to 3, we are not going to get a unique solution. Okay, now let's go for the next criteria. Let's assume that D is not equal to 0 and we swap this. Fantastic. After this, right, so please do think carefully for this question. The first row moves to the first position, 0 AB comes to the third position. Okay, now are we having enough pivots? No, because I see that there is a 0 here in the second pivot position. What is the chance that we can get a solution? If we can swap this which has come to third row with the second row, right? So if we are able to swap that with the second row, then yes, right? So for that, which variable should not be equal to 0? For that, we need A should not be equal to 0. If A is not equal to 0, then I can perform a row 2 and row 3 swap, and I can use a P23 permute matrix there. But if A is equal to 0, what would happen? That there is no second pivot as well. Okay, does that mean that's end of story? No, there is still one left, and that is C. If C equal to 0, there is no third pivot. But if C is not equal to 0, we will definitely have a unique solution, right? So this generalizes this entire elimination with respect to swap of or exchange of rows, and also gives us an idea of what kind of permutes could be required at some point of time. So we would like to generalize and say, therefore, what is the final answer to say, how do we handle LU and this row exchanges? So the answer is here. So it's, we had A equal to LU, from there we moved on to A equal to LDU. Okay, now we are talking about, it's not that A is equal to LU, but it's going to be PA equal to LU or PA equal to LDU, where P is a permutation matrix. The kind of row exchanges that happened with A must get during the process of elimination to produce L and U must be taken and pre-multiplied, and that is what is going to get factored into L and U, right? So let me try and show you an example so that it becomes quite clear. Okay, here is another example. So I have a coefficient matrix. My first row operation is going to be for the multiplier is going to be 1 by 1. So here it is, I have written down here L21 is 1. I get this result. The next element to be eliminated is 2. So I multiply this with twice, R3 minus 2 R1, because my multiplier is 2 divided by 1. I have written down that L31 is 2. Okay, fine, we are here. So we know the trouble now. The trouble is that the second pivot position has gone to 0. So we are swapping now R2 and R3, right? So let's swap this. So here is what we have, and that's it. We are done because we have reached U. Okay, that's already upper triangular. Great. So right on the upper triangular here, let's look at the lower triangular matrix. Let's try and fill up this matrix. How do we fill up this matrix? So what was the multiplier for L21? Here it is 1. What is the multiplier for L31? Here it is 2, right? What is the multiplier for L32? Nobody was there, so therefore that's a 0. Okay, this is great. So we are supposed to fill up here 1 and 2, but I'm hesitating to do that because remember that we had a swap here, right? If we have had a swap here, which means that the rows went down, it means that L21 has now come below and L31 has gone up. And therefore, when we write the matrix, we should be careful in taking these positions. So L21 came below here, therefore I am putting a 1 here, and since L31 is 2, I am going to put a 2 here, right? I hope that this point is clear of where to place the multipliers, right? We shouldn't place the multipliers according to the original positions, but by their swap positions. Now, I have another question at this point. What if we have had a L32 and we had this swap? If we had a L32 and if we have this swap, how is it possible that we can fill up something here, right? So because we said we have to pick up the multiplier, go to the swapped position and then update, right? Which means that we have to do it here. Then would that remain in the same, like, other lower triangular matrices which have got 1s in the diagonals? Will it alter? The answer is that condition will not occur. Remember, when are we going for the swap? We are going for the swap when this position goes to be 0. And when we swap it down here, why would there be a necessity for a multiplier L32? It shouldn't happen, right? So that tells us that it will continue this in the same format and there is no problem at all, right? Okay, and what was the swap that we used in permutation? 2 and 3, right? So look at my permute matrix here. So there's 1 0 0 here, but these two we have swapped and we got the permute matrix, right? So look at PA, we have A here. So permute, just change this to, right? 2 5 8 and 1 1 3, we got it here. Now try and multiply L and U, right? And you will find that this result is exact, right? So this brings us to the end of the LU story and also tells us some beautiful properties, that we learnt about permutation matrices. We discussed about, are there scenarios where LU factorization really does not work and how do we make it work. We also discussed what is the benefit of using LU factorization. So that summarizes this session, and let us close this session with a prayer. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.